Hello. It's been a very, very long time, hasn't it? And that after all my enthusiasm that I was going to be able to do lots of videos while I was on leave. So what's up with that? Well, now it's a bit of a story. Settle down, grab a cup of cocoa, and listen to my tale of woe. So, I was away for a while. Um, and I want to just do some simple digging while we talk about why I was away so long. So I said early in December that I had some time coming up, some free time coming up, and I was hoping to make a lot more videos while that was available to me. And that turned out not to happen. So, there's a reason for that. So, Tam's got some pet rats. Really cute and very nice pets. Oops. Rats make very nice pets actually. And their little faces are very cute. But anyway, Tam's got some pet rats. Now, the observant among you would have noticed in my last video that I was sounding a little bit hoarse. I was sounding a little bit odd. And the reason for that was that I didn't know it at the time when we got the rats. And I found out I have allergies. The rats were making my nose run quite badly. They were causing me some sinus issues. Now, being a big boy and being, well, frankly, being Gen X, I didn't pay much attention to it. The fact that my nose was permanently running, which is probably not a good idea. If you're not feeling well, if something is feeling off, have it looked at. So anyway, I didn't have it looked at. The trouble with a runny nose is that when you're sleeping, that runny nose can cause some rather nasty issues by dumping all sorts of rubbish into your lungs. So my allergies, my runny nose from having allergies, dumped all sorts of unpleasantness into my lungs. That unpleasantness that went into my lungs eventually gave me something called pneumonia, which is basically an infection of the lungs from the bacterial infection of the lungs. So it was basically bugs that made their home in my lungs because I had all this unpleasantness dumping into my lungs. Pneumonia, especially if not paid attention to, again, if you're not feeling well, have it looked at. Pneumonia can be quite nasty. So it's like having assholes bleeding and all that kind of stuff, but again, being a big tough guy, I didn't pay much attention to it. Until one evening, just after my leave started, I suddenly started really struggling to breathe. Like seriously struggling to breathe. To to the extent that I ended up phoning an ambulance. And literally, my exact words to the ambulance company when they answered the phone was, "Help, I can't breathe." Fortunately, there was a paramedic sitting in the control room listening to the call, and he said to the controller, "Just get the address, don't ask any other questions." So, I keep falling in this hole. I need to do something about this hole. Anyway, so the paramedic was very quick. He was also in the vehicle that came to help me. And they took me to a local hospital. And I was in the emergency room for close to 12 hours. Being treated by a truly fantastic medical team who I still think I owe my life to, along with the ambulance people. After those 12 hours, I was admitted to the hospital to a medical ward, and I was there for about a week. I had some pretty serious medication while I was there. I also had a very good doctor, hospital doctor, who looked after me and did the very smart thing of injecting a bit of humor into his visits on rounds. It is surprising just how important a bit of humor is when somebody is ill. And if I remember just now, I'm going to be mentioning something very important that's coming up very soon. It's got absolutely nothing to do with me, but anyway. So I was in the hospital for a week. I was on very strong medication. I was on 24 hours a day oxygen for almost the whole time that I was there. The medication that I was on to basically keep me alive during this pneumonia issue, unfortunately also messes with your blood sugar. And being diabetic, there had to be some changes to my diabetes medication. Fortunately, so far I've avoided having to be on insulin, except that I was on regular insulin injections in the hospital. Medical staff would come in and check my blood sugar and then give me an insulin injection because the pneumonia medication was raising my blood sugar. So anyway, I was in the hospital, and I would say I was focusing on getting better, but quite a lot of the time was spent not really focusing on anything. Eventually it got to the point where my doctor said, "Okay, let's try taking you off the full-time oxygen to see what they call SATs, your blood oxygen saturation, does when we do that." And they took me off the oxygen for about 24 hours. Well, not completely off the oxygen, but what he said was, just take the oxygen thing off for a while, and if you can't breathe, obviously just put it back immediately, but if you seem to be breathing okay, then keep it off. And I was essentially off it for about 24 hours. And then the doctor came back and he looked at all the measurements that the ward staff had done on my blood oxygen saturation and stuff during those 24 hours, and he said, "Good news, you can go with a large prescription of medication, which you need to take to your family doctor and say, here is your chronic medication for the rest of your life. The reason being, now I want to say something very, very important here, and I want you to listen to me. Okay? Listen carefully, especially you kids out there. One of the reasons the pneumonia smacked me so extremely hard is something that I discovered while I was in the emergency room. And that is that I have the beginnings of a condition called COPD. COPD stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. It's got a more common name, and it's a very, very scary name, emphysema. And the reason for that is because I've been a very naughty boy for most of my life. I've been a smoker for a very long time. Do not smoke, kids. Please, please, please do not smoke. COPD is no joke. One of the things that came out of my hospital visit is that I am no longer a smoker, because the doctor told me in no uncertain terms, in his wonderful, humorous way, if you keep smoking, it's gonna kill you. That is not something you want to hear a medical professional say to you. So if you've ever considered, oh, smoking must be so cool, everybody's doing it, do not. It's extremely bad for you, and it can kill you. And it can kill you quite suddenly. I really thought that night that I found the ambulance I was going to die. Because you get something that your body might be able to deal with, like pneumonia, although pneumonia is quite serious anyway, whether you have COPD or not. But something that your body should be strong enough to handle, and then your lungs are no longer strong enough to deal with the symptoms of pneumonia in such a way that it can keep you alive without serious medical intervention. So, don't smoke. If you are currently a smoker, please, please, please stop. Try to stop. Do whatever you can to quit smoking. So anyway, so I was in hospital. After I came out, because of the issue with my blood sugar and stuff like that, it took me probably about another week to really get to the point where my blood sugar testing machine didn't give me angry looks and yell at me every time I used it. It also took me a little while. My lungs were still busy getting stronger, so I actually went and bought myself a little device. You've probably seen them. If you've ever been to hospital, you've definitely seen them. The little thing that clamps onto your finger. Most sports watches can do it as well, but for some reason my sports watch is broken at the moment. I have to get a new one. But basically what it does, it clamps onto your finger and it measures things like your pulse and stuff like that. And one of the things that it measures is your SATs, your blood oxygen saturation. I went and bought one of those, which was surprisingly difficult to do. I only found it at the fourth pharmacy that I went to. Maybe because it's not a particularly cheap device. So I think the pharmacies basically just find that there's not much of a market with the average South African. So I got one of those, and it was about a week before my blood oxygen saturation was consistently at 99%, which is a healthy measurement. So I wasn't really doing too much about, you know, playing Minecraft, making videos and stuff like that. So that was the physical health emergency that started the whole thing. However, because of the physical health emergency, there was another little thing that came up. So I mentioned in passing just now that I'm Gen X. We are supposed to be tough. You know, we're the people who drank out of the hose. We're the people who played out in the street until after sunset every day. We're the people whose parents, when they were little, really little, whose parents used to phone each other around lunchtime to find out whose house the kids are at. We're a tough bunch. One of the things we don't think about is our own mortality. It's not something that really comes up in our minds. The fact that you are in this world and it is entirely possible, quite unexpectedly, to suddenly not be in this world anymore. It's not something we think about. I had to take some time to think about that. I had to basically sit myself down and seriously think about the fact that I had had a rather scary experience. I had had an experience that if I was not in the fortunate position of being employed full-time and being in a position to have medical aid and to be able to call a private ambulance company for help and to be able to be taken to a private hospital for emergency treatment and to be able to stay in said private hospital for a week for treatment of the condition that it put me in the emergency room in the first place, I might not be here. So if I wasn't in this privileged position of being gainfully employed in a fairly senior position at a company that says that its people are very important and all of them must have medical aid, which I think is a fantastic idea, and they make sure that people are paid enough to have medical aid, I might be dead now. I might not actually be around anymore to make this video. And there are very many people in the world who are not in the kind of lucky position that I'm in. I had to think about other stuff as well. I had to think about the fact that I have a child who's Gen Z. I have a child who's in early high school. I want to be around for a long time still. So I had to think about a lot of stuff. It took me a long time to basically come to terms with what had happened to me and what the consequences of that could have been had my personal situation been a little bit different. I also had to come to terms with the fact that a big part of the problem was literally just a bad habit that I had for most of my life. Bad, horrible, disgusting, socially unacceptable habit that I had for most of my life. The person to blame is me, mainly. Primarily me. It took me some time to get my head around that and deal with that. Of course, by the time I was maybe halfway through that process, I was also back at work. My holiday time was over, and I had to basically get back to work. Which means that again chewed into my time, into my ability to chill out and log into this world and play some Minecraft and make some videos to share with you folks. So yes, that's why we are. Why it's taking me so long to get back here? Basically, I got sick. I had to take some time to recover from the illness. I had to take some time to handle and deal with the implications of what actually happened and how that affected my mind. So what I've been doing while I was talking to you guys, is I'm flattening out an area here. We look at the map. It's not far from I suppose I should call it my base. My first base. It's not far away from that, just on the other side of this little mountain. That's an idea that I got a couple of days ago when I was watching some videos and I was watching a ZF VOD. Now, those of you who know Zits, Zits being ZF, Impulse, Tango and Skizzleman, know they have this fun thing called the Z-Olympics, where they do all sorts of mini games on one of their Patreon servers. And this latest one was on Techtopia, Techotix Patreon server. And I thought, well, there's at least one game there I can build very easily. One of the games I played in the Z-Olympics I can build very easily because it involves no redstone at all. But I might as well do a little gaming district and put up definitely that game. That game being basically they build a little platform, 23 or 24 blocks in the sky. They put some water down at the bottom. You go up, you jump down into the water. When you land, you put down a block in the water where you landed. And then the next person jumps, and if they survive, they put down a block where they landed, etc., etc., etc. And the last one to die 3 times or 5 times, depending how many people are on, how long you want to play, is the winner. Because as people survive, they put down blocks in the water, so the amount of water gets less and less and less. Then eventually you're going to hit one of the blocks that somebody put down. So that's a fun game. I like that game, and there's no redstone. Well, I'd say there's no redstone. There's literally, for each player, there's a little column of copper bulbs with a button on each. That's the redstone. So if you fall down and you die, then you go up and you press the button on the next light. And once your column of copper bulbs is full, you're out. So that's the extent of the redstone. The other games were really redstone heavy, but I still want to do some kind of gaming district. Even though there are only ever going to be 2 of us who play games on this world, Tam and me, that was horrible English, Tam and I, I still want to do some games, so I've got to think about games that are two-player games and games that Dan will enjoy, games that I will enjoy, because then maybe Dan will stop wanting PvP on every time she's on the server and want to kill me over and over and over. You want to compete in other ways. So yeah, there's method to the madness. So yeah, there's going to be a new project. It's going to come up. It's coming up soon. Oh, I'm starting. There's going to be a new project in this area. So I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be fun, and that brings us back into this world. It brings me back into actually playing some Minecraft and making some videos and putting all this nonsense behind me and getting on with stuff that I like. This world, after all, exists for me to get away from the stress of the real world. And the real world threw some stress at me, and it's taken me quite some time to get back to actually playing in this world and doing stuff, doing fun stuff. So I did say, if I remember, I'll mention something not related to my recent experiences directly, at least, not directly related to my recent experiences, but related in some way. I mentioned that my doctor was very good at injecting a bit of humor into the situation and just lightening the mood, which does help. I mean, it actually has been shown that lightening the mood improves the outcomes of illness. So, Hermitcraft. Well, I'm a huge Hermitcraft fan, as you know. I'm recording this on Easter weekend, during Easter weekend. Next weekend, 11 and 12 April 2026, is the Gamers for Giving event for Gamers Outreach. Now, if you don't know who Gamers Outreach are, go look, gamersoutreach.org. But very simply, they make carts. They make these things called Go Carts, which stands for Gamers Outreach Carts. A Go Kart is basically a gaming console on wheels. But it's not just any old wheels. It is medical environment certified wheels. These carts are then provided to hospitals, specifically children's hospitals or hospitals with children's wards. And these carts go towards giving children something to do and something to distract them, something to bring some smiles to their faces during what might be the most difficult days of their lives. Very, very cool idea. One of my favorite, well, I say one of my favorite hermits, but all the hermits are one of my favorite. But yes, one of the hermits, Good Times with Scar, is actually a member of the board of Gamers Outreach. And the reasoning for that is that he got involved originally with getting the hermits to do a special event, specifically to raise money for Gamers Outreach and to get involved in what's called the Gamers for Giving charity event, which is basically a lot of gamers getting together and doing charity work, usually all at the same time, over a weekend in lots of different locations. And he got involved with getting the hermits involved, with getting the hermits to take part in Gamers for Giving in aid of Gamers Outreach. That was a couple of years ago. The Hermitcraft community, being the Hermitcraft community, the fan community, they were expecting to raise maybe, if they were lucky, they were thinking if they were lucky they'd get maybe $20,000 for the weekend, the first time they did this. They raised that before the event started. The Hermitcraft community was, or is, so awesome that they actually almost crashed the servers of the service that was actually raising handling the money, the payments and stuff like that. So it's a company that does essentially the mechanics of raising money online. They almost crashed their servers because there was money flowing in so fast. Because of that, it is now a major annual feature on the Hermitcraft calendar. A big event on the Hermitcraft calendar is Gamers for Giving, or Gamers Outreach, and that's happening next weekend. Side note, last year they had it at the same location where they're having it this year. It is not open to the public. Please don't go. It is never open to the public. The location is Microsoft offices in Seattle, specifically the Minecraft theme offices in Seattle. Essentially, Microsoft say, okay, you want to do this charity event, we think it's a fantastic idea. We've seen how popular it is, we've seen how important it is, and they tell the Minecraft staff, okay, guys, for these couple of days, work from home. And they provide the offices for the Hermitcraft people to put on the Games for Giving event. I think that's cool. I think that's very cool. Hermitcraft has raised millions of dollars for Gamers Outreach. The Hermits and the Hermitcraft fans have made a definite, undeniable difference in millions of kids' lives. They've injected some enjoyment, some distraction into kids' hospital visits, and it has been shown that that does lead to good outcomes. So, it's mainly streamed on Twitch. If you're in a financial position to be able to donate some money, then consider donating. Even if not, watch them. Be part of the audience. It's going to be a very, very enjoyable weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, for us here in South Africa, the timing is a little bit odd because it's in Seattle. On the 11th, the start of the event is 9 a.m. Seattle time. I went and checked, and it is 6 p.m. South Africa time. Not much sleep can happen that weekend. One of the things that I particularly am looking forward to is that Zombie Cleo is going to be there. Now, if you know the significance of what I just said, you will be as excited as I am. Zombie Cleo is going to be there. And they are going to run an in-person Blood on the Clock Tower session. I can't wait. Of course, it's like at 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday night or something. But sorry, boss, I'm going to be very sleepy that Monday. Anyway, that's enough waffle from me. You've got a better idea of why I've been so quiet for such a very, very long time. And I think I'm very much on the mend. Physically I'm completely on the mend, except there's no such thing as an ex-smoker. There's a smoker who's not smoking. It's easy to fall back onto that habit. It's an addiction, and like most addictions, you are never a non-addict. If you've ever been an addict, you're never a non-addict. What you are is an addict in remission, an addict who is not using, an addict who is not giving into your addiction for the rest of your life. So yeah, I'm on the mend. Mentally, I'm in a much better position than I have been for the last couple of months, and physically I'm pretty much back to normal. And we are going to start getting back into making some Minecraft videos. So that's going to be fun. Anyway, guys, sorry about the waffle video, but I think it was important. And now you know why I was away, and now you know that we are going to be back. No promises about a upload frequency, but we're back. I'm back. Thanks for watching. If you've made it this far into the video, thank you very, very much for watching, and goodbye, good people.